Hello there, it's Detective DJ, and welcome to our weekly show, The Crime Crushers. I am Detective DJ along with my team. This week, the name of our mystery is called The President's Partner. Okay, so if you're ready, we are. The scene of the crime is one where the nation has watched the unfolding of events on TV. An important press conference was about to begin, and the nation's major TV networks were all there. So too were most major international press. It was a big-time event. The nation watched as the president entered the room, and he had started to walk purposely towards the raised podium. However, just before he got there, there was a loud bang, and great pandemonium broke out. The president had apparently been shot. He lay motionless on the ground, and then somehow he had disappeared from sight to the viewers on TV, and he was nowhere to be found by anyone. He was not in his office, he was not in his living quarters, and the presidential limo was in its parking spot. The presidential helicopter was also in its pad, and the presidential plane was in its hangar. What's going on? Well, according to Dr. Shea, our resident psychologist, the perfect location had to be a crowded conference room. The reason for the victim being there was that he was going to have a major press conference, and he was going to deliver a major address to the nation. Let's go to the motives, and now we're on to part 2. As far as Chip, our investigator, could uncover, a foreign government wanted the president dead. Someone else had threatened to kill the good old president, and a local group had also threatened to kidnap the president. There's also the possibility that the president could have faked his disappearance. My, what a confusing time this is. The following characters have been identified as possible suspects. There was a certain Middle Eastern government who wanted the president dead. There were some family members who also wanted him dead. A radical group wanted to kidnap him. And of course, the president may have faked his disappearance in order to escape. Let's just see what else Chip has for us. President Scott Sandosky was a marked man, and he had known that his life was in danger from certain elements. His people had liked him very much. He had had support from his government, and had also had support from his military. So what is the problem? However, his country had recently invaded another country in order to help quell an uprising. The dethroned president of that country had vowed to kill Scott Sandosky, and he had hired 2 top international killers to do the job. They had managed to enter the country 2 weeks previous, and in addition to this, poor old Scott Sandosky was in trouble with his 3 nephews because they wanted him dead too. They had accused him of killing their dad on a hunting trip, and this incident had taken place 2 years ago. The president apparently had shot his brother during a deer hunt. It was an accident. His brother had left everything to the president, and he had left nothing for his 3 sons. The 3 sons had accused the president of killing their father in order to collect a massive fortune. The fortune had been valued at hundreds of millions of dollars. The president's brother had lost his wife a few years ago during childbirth, and he had never recovered from his loss. He He and the president had become inseparable, and the president was devastated by the accident. He had recently told his wife that he no longer had the will to govern. In addition to all this, a fanatical group had recently threatened to kidnap Sandosky for ransom. They had accused him of not paying enough attention to their cause, and they had wanted money to promote their cause. They accused the president of having openly snubbed them, and they were demanding $50 billion. And in addition, they wanted a spot on his military committee. They wanted one of theirs to be a top advisor on his military committee. They threatened to kill him if their demands were not met. Let's look at the suspects. The president's 3 nephews, the dethroned president's assassins, a local fanatical group. But could the president have faked his disappearance? Well, let's look at the cause of death. The president had not been killed. He did not appear to have been fatally shot, and this is how I think it was done. All the suspects had learned about the president's press conference the day before. Each had determined to act there and then. The president had also decided to act as well. He was not going to sit back and watch people come at him to kill him. He was going to do something about it because he was a proactive president. He had received some visitors the evening before. 2 in particular had seemed to have troubled him greatly. The first had visited him at his office, and the second had visited him at his living quarters. He had been awakened by a phone call in the early hours of the morning. He had spoken to the caller in very hushed tones, but it was very brief. And the next morning he rose very early and went jogging. He jogged his normal route around the pond and among the trees, but just before entering a leafy path, his cell phone rang. He slowed to take the call, which was very brief, and after jogging he returned to his quarters and breakfasted with his wife. Then he got ready for his press conference. As usual, his wife walked with him to his office. She lingered for a wee bit longer at the door, but then she was gone. 15 minutes later, the president emerged and walked briskly to the podium. However, midway to the podium, he paused for the briefest of moments. He looked upwards and smiled, and then continued onwards. There was a loud bang just before he reached the podium, and in the aftermath, he laid on the ground. He appeared to have been shot, and something happened during the confusion. The president had vanished. Okay, we're now on to part 3. I'm going to summarize everything for you. It's not going to be that difficult. Crime scene is one where the president apparently has been shot, is seen lying on the ground, but then, during the course of the mass confusion, he disappears. He was supposed to have been giving a press conference to the nation. Many international press people were there. It was built to be a very important speech that he was going to make to the nation. Did he vanish? Or did someone kill him? Or did he fake his appearance? Very, very interesting. Suspects? The president's 3 nephews? And the president's 3 nephews wanted him dead because they accused him of killing their dad on a hunting trip. A radical group? A radical group wanted him dead because they felt that he had not been paying enough attention to them. The foreign government wanted him dead because they felt that it was wrong for him to have helped to dethrone their own president, so their dethroned president wanted him dead. And maybe the president did disappear after all. here are some questions for you to think about before you go accusing anybody of murder. Who had the most motive? Did any of the late-night visitors have any bearing on all of this? How well did the president know his visitors? Did the early morning phone call that he received have any significance on this whole thing? Could something have taken place while the president was jogging? How about that cell phone call that he received while jogging? How about, what if? My goodness. Lots for you to think about before you finger that murderer or accuse the president of faking his own disappearance. Let's look now at some more revelations for you to consider as you conclude your own investigations. Each of the suspects identified had very strong motives. The president had known one of his visitors very well. His visitors had visited him, his nephews had visited him with an ultimatum. His early morning phone call was very significant, and something did take place while he was jogging. He knew his cell phone caller. My goodness, who did it? President Scott Sandosky faked his own disappearance in order to save his life. Well, folks, the president knew that in order to stay alive, he had to fake his own disappearance. His nephews had visited him the day before. They told him that they would kill him and his wife if he did not pay up $1 billion to them. Someone else had also visited him with an ultimatum. A secret agent from the foreign government had visited him. The secret agent had managed to fool security by saying that he was representing a Cure for Kids Foundation, and everyone had known about the president's passion for the kids and their causes and anything surrounding the betterment of kids. His security services also knew about the threats to his life and had developed a contingency plan unknown to him. The early morning call came from security, and things had been put in place. The cell phone call while he was jogging came from a security agent. When he was among the trees, he switched places with an agent. He was whisked away after this, and the pause on the way to the podium was a sign for the agents to act. The rest is history. There you have it, folks. Another episode in the books, so to speak. We hope you enjoyed it. We enjoyed having you along for the past half hour. You have a great week, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.